Alrighty, let's do this. Nightly, bro. First thing first, the name L-U-I. There are dots between the L, the U, and the I, but it's L-U-I. Secondly, the game. It is the game of bodybuilding. Thirdly, it is J. Cutler. 4 times Mr. Olympia, the cut above. I mentioned quite often that in my proper reckoning, he represents the very epitome of the most complete Mr. Olympia ever. What do I mean by it? Now, we all have our favorites, we all have our fanboyish kind of love for a certain icon. Let it be Arnold Schwarzenegger, let it be Franco Colombo, Frank Zane, Lee Haney, Ronnie Coleman, Phil Heath, you name it. But what I'm trying to convey to you here, that when it comes to the completeness, if we add the good points minus the weak points, I think in my reckoning he comes on top for several reasons. Let me display them rather to you, well, with several pictures. But before going there, let's go back to the golden era, shall we? Well, shall we will. Anyway, so you got here Mr. Sergio Oliva, may he rest in peace, next to the oak, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This is namely the golden era. We all love this golden era. Franco Colombo, Frank Zane, and the likes. These guys are to be saluted. Serge Nubret, may he rest in peace as well. The thing is, we need to agree on something. Although it is the very golden era, I mean, bubble gut not even once, vacuums all day and daily. However, there are certain metrics that evolved throughout the year. It did not stay still, in a sense. The level augmented. Now, granted, we have some bad things that happened, like the bubble gut and whatnot, but we have to agree that progress did occur as well. These guys progress, right? I mean, look, if you put Sergio Oliva next to Ronnie Coleman, the very definition, the separation, the muscle maturity augmented ever so significantly in today's era. There is no denying in that. And certainly there's another aspect who has grown, namely the wheels. I mean, it started with Tom Platz. I mean, these guys back in the day did not even lift when it comes to the wheels next to him. They were like, wow, is this real? I mean, even back then, if you compare to the guys next to him, he was smoking them senseless. I mean, Franco Colombo, did he even lift next to him? You know what I mean? So this is just one point that has progressed in a significant way. The wheels, amongst other metrics. So, proceed, shall we? Now, this dude right here, 2001 version of him is one of my favorite, right? I mean, it is hard to pinpoint a single weak muscle or a single pose for that matter. Don't get it twisted, he is not perfect, but he actually approached the perfection, in my reckoning, to the proper extent. Guess what? A lot of guys ding him. They say, bro, he has, you know, a kind of a large waist. But guess what? It was one of his strengths. He was killing people, pretty much everybody. He has the best midsection of any Mr. Olympia on top of 2,070 pounds. Dude was coming at 273, 275, and he was shredded to the bone. So that we need to salute. Compare him to his biggest foe of back then, Ronnie Coleman. It was a take-home pose for Jay Cutler. He was smoking him, right? And this is, by the way, one of the weakest points of this gentleman, but we will come back to him, right? The midsection of Big Ron was not his strength. It was not even average. It was probably the worst in Mr. Olympia top 10 lineup, even of his era. You got to comprehend that the 4-pack, even though it is genetic, it was not defined. The obliques were not there, the intercostals, he was getting smoked senseless by Jay Cutler. Front double biceps of this guy. Now, it is not the best in the world, but can you tell me, okay, this part is weak, this is not good, everything flows well, even though it is not sublime, yet it is just perfect. It is not a weak spot whatsoever. 1984, we had this gentleman that became Mr. Olympia for 8 times in a row. Should we include him in this comparison? He was a sight to be seen. I mean, he has a marvelous aesthetic. He continued in the footsteps of the golden era, right? I mean, the front lat spread, his lats were good, but we need to agree, his arms by today's standards will put him next to Phil Heath. He will get smoked. So that metric, in a sense, has been augmented significantly from his era. I mean, his arms next to any, Phil Heath, next to Jackson of this era. Kai Green, he will get smoked, senseless. His legs, we have to agree, they're not up to par with today's era as well. Same goes with the rest of his body. So it was kind of an undersized compared to this day. But believe me, he will not place very high today. I mean, even compared to a classical kind of physique like Cedric McMillan, he will get dwarfed, senseless, right? And even by back then, like his front double biceps, if you compare him to a dude that was prior to him, Robbie Robinson, for instance, the sweep, the peak, he has set up a new standard, a new metric that was unmatched until today. I mean, this kind of sweeps and peaks that were unseen in the 80s until we have, the likes of right now. It is quite common, the Kai Green of this world, Rolly Winkler, that crazy sweep, and, of course, Phil Heath. This is Robbie Robinson when he came back. He was in his 50s and he was still rocking with the young, right? And then we have the Dorian Yates era. Now it became serious. It became serious in 1993 to a certain extent when Lee Haney retired at the age of 31, if I do recall. He was there. He was assisting in the audience in 93. It was only 2 years after his retirement. He was still young. He was 33 when he looked at Dorian Yates and Flex Wheeler and Kevin Levrone. He said on record, I have nothing to do with these guys. I will get smoked. These guys are monsters. He recognized, rightfully so, that the era has changed because of this. The new mass freaks, they came in to reign supreme. So Yates, he has some milestone muscle group. Of course, he is known as the Shadow, not because of his back, but he could name him because of his back. And the thing is, they named him the Shadow because he was coming from the UK. He was taking the Sandow, the trophy of Mr. Olympia, and he was leaving as a Shadow. But you can put that nickname because of his back and his lats. They're absolutely impressive. His triceps is crazy big. His calves are probably the biggest of any Mr. Olympia of any era. However, his biceps, even before the injury, you got to comprehend and you got to recognize it is not a sight to be seen. And there is no sweep there as well. Same goes with his chest. In some poses, it looks kind of small, not thick, and the legs do not have striations and feathers. As a matter of fact, this picture right here of earlier, I think it was 1992, is probably the most diced picture you can get of his quads. He was not known for that. Proceed, shall we? Ronnie Coleman era, 8-time Mr. Olympia, the biggest we've ever seen, probably the strongest real bodybuilder. Don't give me some names of unknown dudes. I'm talking about dudes who step foot on a Mr. Olympia stage. Like top IFBB pros is definitely the strongest ever. He was pushing some biblical weights. Probably he will be matched only by big guys like Big Grammy. But until then, it is still to be proven, right? As I said, he was hard to beat when he was on, especially in his 2003 version. Right, this was earlier versions though, probably 1999. His gut was still under control, but even at then, you can see that a 4-pack, even though it is a genetic feat, it is not a blessing. It is not a blessing versus a guy who has a proper 6 or 8-pack. Of course, judges will ding you for that. I'm sorry. Same goes with the calves, even though it is genetic, but it comes with the territory. It's time to you to tell me, bro. I mean, what's his name? Dennis Wolf, he has high lats. Those are genetic. Don't ding him for that. He has no tricep sweep. It is genetic. He has high calves. No, these metrics count, and that's why he cannot beat guys like Phil Heath and Kai Green. Deal with it. Now, this was in 2001. He knew that Jay Cutler was a serious threat. If you guys were not assistant to that Mr. Olympia, if you now watch it live, actually a lot of people had, even back then, Jay Cutler winning winning. The first guy who saw him was the late, may he rest in peace, Mike Matarazzo, because he shared the same hotel room as him. When he saw him, he said, "Wow, dude, you're on. You are absolutely on." Thing is, even if you watch the Mr. Olympia, it is available on YouTube. You'll probably, some sway for Jay, some sway for Ronnie Coleman. The thing is, back then it was the Weider era, and by politics, you will never win Mr. Olympia unless you knock the champion out. And Ronnie was not that bad, right? Probably Jay was a little bit better, but then again, you need to knock him. That's the rule, right? And then Jay made some mistakes. In my opinion, he started to talk against the system on record. He said, "I'm not gonna assist in 2002. I'm not gonna do it because they not want to give it to me, even though I was the best in 2001." And it's not good. Do you think that Joe Weider likes you to talk like that against his system? No. So of course he shot himself in the foot, and he understood it a little bit later. So let's proceed. As I said, the midsection of Ronnie Coleman is not even average. You got to understand it is less than average. It just pops up. The 4-pack is not good. The obliques are just not that superb. And again, the calves are definitely a weak point. Those are the only 2 weak points you can pinpoint in this physique, but they're still there. Aside from that, he has some crazy body parts who are not only good, but they're the best of the best, the cream, the very cream of the crop. Namely, these glutes, the back is toe on toe with Dorian Yates. Some people like him, some people like Dorian Yates better, but it is certainly one of the best ever, right? The wheels are the biggest. The biceps peak is just insane. So we have superb pluses, but unfortunately he also had those 2 weaknesses. All right, this is a display of his calves. As you guys can see, there was no definition, no clear separation between the two parts, and so on. If you compare him, for example, to today's era, Phil Heath or Dorian Yates, he gets smoked in the calves department as an example. Now we arrived to pretty much today's era, right, with the current Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath, when he was competing versus Jay. I'm not sure about this picture. It was probably in 2010, right? And back then, as you guys know, Jay Cutler won. I think it was in 2010, according to this haircut of Jay Cutler. Now, his strength, let's compare him to Phil Heath real quick in this pose, right? It is debatable on the upper side. However, I'll have to give it a little edge to Cutler in this pose. He just get it right. He's not narrow upstairs. It just flows a little bit better. And when it comes to the wheels, striations and feathers all day, which his foe unfortunately does not have. So he ups him. He basically takes it rather a bit in this pose as an example, and he won that Mr. Olympia. These pictures are from 2010, his last actually, Mr. O. He's a little bit wider, right? This is a genetic feat, right, that he had an advantage in. He has a proper 6-pack as well. Now this was probably the same, and it was 2008, if I'm not mistaken, right? Now, the Christmas tree of Phil Heath is a sight to be seen. It is 3D, right? That one of Jay Cutler is somehow not symmetrical, but it is so thick, it is so huge, it is just insane. He is stated as having still one of the top 5 backs ever, top 5 ever of any era, right? So that's what's up. So it's not a weakness. Proceed, shall we? Again, the take-home pose for him, where the foes cannot display some features, the feathers, especially in the abs and thigh, he gets it so right. It flows well even with the lats and the upper body, so it's just perfect, picture perfect, take-home position. His calves, even though they're not the best ever, right, they're not as big or as huge as those of Dorian Yates, nonetheless, they are still good. There is a clear separation, clear, proper balanced development. So he smokes Ronnie Coleman in that sense. It's not a weak point. It is just proper, good, by all measures, good calves. His glutes, even though they're not as crazy dice as those of Ronnie Coleman, still, they're not bad. These striations, clear separation between them and the hamstrings, which are also a thick, good, strong point for him as well. There we go. He was recognized as having that, actually. Ronnie Coleman knew that he would probably lose the abs and thighs pose next to this gentleman right here. It was a take-home position for him, right? And some say that probably his chest is not that thick. I'm sorry, he is. I mean, the chest is absolutely marvelous. It is bulgy, even in this crab pose. You need to comprehend, though, Jay Cutler does not have, like, you cannot say Jay Cutler has the best pose ever, like the best front double biceps or the best this. No, he does not have those kind of signature poses, all right? However, the package, when you add up the points, in my reckoning, he just wins the crown. For instance, this joined hands, most muscular pose, a lot of specialists, even myself, agree that Kevin probably has the best ever. I mean, be my guest. It is 3D, one of the craziest ever. I mean, close to that of current Mr. Olympia, Phil Heath, but a lot of people agree that Kevin has it the best. When it comes to the front lat spread, until today, journalists say you have a Dorian-esque front lat spread, meaning it resembles that of Dorian Yates. We have to agree. His was just marvelous. It was a take-home pose, right? The side chest, in my reckoning, the best one ever, the most impressive ever, belongs to Ronnie Coleman. Anything biceps, front double biceps, it's his. I mean, be my guest, right? Even the back double biceps, hard to touch. You gotta agree, hard to touch. Except, you know, the calves. The rest is just picture perfect. Side triceps. I had to go with that of Dorian Yates, an example. Right? It just flows well. He got it. It was a take-home pose for him, right? So that's what's up. Even though Jay Cutler does not have those kind of signature mandatory poses, right? I think that the total package is just the closest to having less flaw. I mean, the lowest number of flaws. And you guys, please be my guest, because, you know, if you start talking about specific bodybuilders, if you tell me, okay, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm sorry, bro, I love Arnold, but by today's metrics, he has a lot of muscle groups that just are not up there. I know he was good in his era, but we're talking all eras included. I mean every era, right? The metrics, it does not matter what era you are in. And that's what's up. So just my opinion. This guy is the dude who basically reached the perfection, almost touched it, because nobody's perfect, and he is the guy who almost was there. As a matter of fact, the closest guy who has reached the same metrics was not even a Mr. Olympia. It is the best version of Víctor Martínez. Víctor Martínez resembled a lot this guy in a lot of metrics. He barely had any flaw. That's what's up. Salute you wherever you are. Tell me what you guys think about it and discuss the points I mentioned point by point in the comment section. God bless you all.